A slight reprieve from ongoing stage 6 rolling blackouts, with Eskom implementing stages 3 and 4 rotational cuts this weekend. But high demand as winter approaches means higher stages are inevitable. Let's discuss this further now with Professor Mark Swilling, who is the co-director of the Centre for Sustainability Transitions at Stellenbosch University. You know, Prof, I have to be honest and ask you, at what stage do you become bored with being asked these questions, as if we're going to speak to you one day and you're going to be able to tell us, you know what, everything's been solved, we've come up with the right plan, tomorrow the power will stay on for more than 12 hours at a time. Blackouts, load shedding, whatever you want to call it, is with us, and no matter what kind of high-level meetings like we saw happening this week is going to change that any time soon. From what you see happening both at that high level and on the insides of Eskom and how they're trying to manage our power cuts, are you seeing any improvement at this stage?
I don't think anybody can claim that we're seeing an improvement. As you've already said, as winter sets in, the situation is going to get worse, and everybody across the spectrum has said that. So we need to brace ourselves. The real question is, when do things start to improve? And we have now the Minister of Electricity who says that by December, load shedding can be ended. But there's a lot of evidence which suggests that we're only going to be able to end load shedding in about 18 months to 2 years from now, which is when the renewables that have been procured start to come online. And a large amount of renewables has now been procured. We're waiting for that to come online.
How do you feel about us? Have we as a country put enough focus on getting those renewables online fast enough? And you juxtapose that against news that we saw this week, that there's more and more talk, and these happened at high-level meetings this week, about walking back or holding back our decommissioning of our coal-fired power stations. The one doesn't seem to talk to the other, does it?
No, it doesn't really. But what we need to recognize is that during the course of 2022, according to the Energy Action Plan, a range of key decisions were made, in particular by the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, that actually, when you add it all up, amounts to about 30 gigawatts of renewables in the pipeline. We only need 10 of those to come online within 18 to 24 months in order to end load shedding. And that will be achieved at very low cost. It's cheaper to build new renewables than it is to keep old coal-fired power stations going. So coming to your second part of your question, yes, there has been a lot of talk now of keeping the old coal-fired power stations going. But we have to see the details. The Minister of Finance has said he's definitely not putting cash into that. So it can only be done by the private sector, which means basically finding buyers for these power stations. When those buyers start looking at that, you still have to get through the hurdles, the procurement, the regulations, the NERSA approvals, raising the capital for all of that. It's probably 3 to 4 years down the line before you can actually achieve any significant results. By then, a whole pile of renewables will be coming online at much cheaper prices. And by then, people will start to say, well, why do we want to do this?
Yes, indeed. Now, as we look towards winter, from what you've been able to deduce, is the best hope that we have, especially with our electricity minister now in position, is that our load shedding is managed to a way that at least allows us to keep those load shedding stages at a lower level as we head into the coldest and, let us not say, darkest parts of the year.
Yes, obviously we want to keep load shedding as low as possible, but we must not forget that effective load shedding by the system operating Eskom is actually designed to prevent a blackout. So load shedding in that sense is a good thing. It actually prevents the worst outcome. The worst outcome is a blackout, which could be 1 to 3 weeks without electricity for everything. That means no ATMs, no petrol at petrol stations. And with all the social unrest and consequences that could follow, that's really the worst scenario. So we have to get through our winter without a blackout. And that is going to mean making sure that load shedding actually continues to prevent that from happening as demand starts to creep up beyond supply.
Now, some parts of South Africa have been dealing with their load shedding management a bit better than others. Here in Gauteng, top of mind in various communities and areas in Johannesburg has been the tripping. It's what all of the suburban WhatsApp groups are talking about. When your power is scheduled to come back on after your session of load shedding, it's not coming back. And we're hearing more and more about an infrastructure that hasn't been looked after in a big metro like Johannesburg, as opposed to other metros where, yes, they've got less people, but they seem to have managed their infrastructure a bit better. Yeah. That's going to be a very, very heavy cost for an entity like City Power to carry as we head into a heavy time of load shedding, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what a lot of people don't understand. So the Eskom load shedding period can come to an end, but they still don't have lights. And that's because they're on a municipal distribution grid, which has its own dynamics and its own problems. Cape Town, for example, more or less half is provided by Eskom, and the other half is provided by Cape Town. And if things go wrong with the Cape Town grid, across the road, you can have people with lights, but those people on the Cape Town grid will not have lights. So people don't really understand these distinctions, and it causes a lot of anger and even deeper mistrust of the entire energy system, which is now rife across the country. No matter what Eskom says, nobody trusts Eskom, and it's a bit sad.